Part 5, and now we could understand what we say in the Haggadah. Lefikach anachnu chayavim lahodetzul lahal shabeach lefar. Therefore, we're going to be really super praising Hashem. Haitzianu, He took us out me'avdus l'cheirus, from being enslaved to cheirus, to be free. Mi'yagain, from sadness l'simcha, to happiness. Ume'eva l'yantif, ume'afelu l'or gadol, u'mishibud l'geula. The Yisib Svarim HaKadoshim, it says in the Svarim HaKadoshim, look at the Noyim Ali Melech Parshas Yisrael, that in the Galus Mitzrayim, there were many different concepts, many layers. And not everybody in Klal Yisrael had the same type of Galus. There were people who were just simply working b'chaymer v'ulveinim, the physical hard labor. And for them, we say, there was a geula me'avdus l'cheirus. They were just working, plugging in with that stuff. There were others that didn't have to work so hard. They were managers or they were supervisors. Then you had Shevet Levi. They didn't work physically, but they had Yagoin Va'afela. They had terrible depression. How do you say Yagoin? Sorrow, pain, and darkness. Everybody had shibud. Afilu Shevet Levi shle'yavdu. Everybody says, oh, Shevet Levi, they didn't have a problem with Mitzrayim. They had shibud. And they were all meshubah tachas klipas Mitzrayim. And that is the Ikar Geulas Mitzrayim. Mishibud legeula, page 6. Mishibud legeula. That's what it says at the end. Yes, Haitzianu me'avdus l'cheirus, we didn't have to work so hard. We went from Yagoin to Simcha. We went to Eva Liyantif Me'afela, from darkness l'ar gadol to a great light. Umishibud legeula. That was for everybody. From being enslaved, where were we enslaved? In our minds. To geula, meaning that we once again got back the ability to think like a free person, to make decisions, to have a koyach habchira. Going back to the beginning, he said that Chazal, when they defined every yontif, they gave it a quick name. Zman Matan Teresenu, Zman Simchasenu. What's Pesach? Zman Cherusenu. Really, that's not really the name it should be. It's part of it. A lot more happened than we went free. No, he's saying that's everything. Shekol Yisrael Yatsu V'nishtachru Boi Mishibud HaKlipa HaKosha Shel Mitzrayim L'Cherus Olam. Gans Klal Yisrael went out from that terrible Shibud HaKlipa and we went L'Cherus Olam. It's not even talking about that we were physically free. We could have been celebrating now, going Mishibud L'Geula and still remained in Mitzrayim. The fact that we physically went out of Mitzrayim was a different thing, which we don't celebrate. Why? Because that was one of the questions which we're going to get to soon. I'm just skipping to that. One of his questions was, why are we so excited that we're out of Golus? We're in Golus now. Somebody can say, Rubashkin can celebrate that he's out of jail. But somebody who gets out of jail and then he gets put back in jail, so he's going to, in jail, celebrate the time that I went and I was free. You're back in jail. Teretz is that we're back in physical jail. But that level of addiction, of enslavement, that we lost our atzmos completely, that we had a Mitzrayim, that's Mishibud L'Geula. Being enslaved is not being able to have freedom of choice. Being addicted, becoming like a behemoth. Losing our manhood meaning what makes us a man, a human, our humanness. What's the difference between a person and a cow? The cow sees something at once, it takes it. A person could decide, yes, no, it's good for me, it's not good for me. You could say, I want to do this now, and then I want to stop, and then I want to go. And losing self-control is losing your whole self. Losing self-control, you lost control of yourself. That's the Shibud L'Geula. Now we can understand such a beautiful thing he says. So beautiful. V'avarti be'eretz Mitzrayim. Hashem says, I will go to Teretz Mitzrayim. Ani v'lei malach, ani v'lei sarf, ani v'lei shliach. We all say this all the time. Me, Hashem says, me, not an angel, not a saraf. How do you say a saraf? A different type of angel. And not a shliach. I can't send a shliach, means Moshe Rabbeinu. No. Ani Hashem, b'chvoidi uva'atzmi, I alone are going to rescue you. Frek to NESIVAS SHALOM. I love, one of the things I love most about NESIVAS SHALOM, he asks a question that a fourth grader could ask. He asks a simple question that I said, why didn't I ever ask this? And he makes sense out of every little question. He says, who cares? Does it really matter if we were freed by Hashem or if he would have sent us the limo to pick us up from jail? Do we really care? Ma ichbas lon. Ilu haisi yitzias mitzrayim ayidei malach yisaref ayidei shliach hakavanu l'Moshe Rabbeinu. Harry Koltesha Marcus Rishonis Hayal Moshe Aaron Madu Hutzrich Dafka Marcus B'Choyres B'Tzias Mitzrayim Shirak Like the Kodesh Baruch Hu B'Choyd B'Atzmai. First of all, what's the difference? We were enslaved, we were in Mitzrayim, and we got free. What are you making such a big deal? If you would have sent us a malach to free us, would it be a problem? We would be just as happy. We would have the same story, no? And in fact, he says the first 9 Makkos were done by Moshe and Aaron. Why all of a sudden now, by Makkos B'Choyres, by Yitzias Mitzrayim, I got to do this myself, and we're making a big deal out of it? Why? What's going on? We're going to explain this according to what we said before. Yisrael hayu mishubadim sham legamri. We were internally enslaved in our mind to the mindset of Mitzrayim. Like we said, an 8-9-year-old kid from Mei She'arim that you sent to Amsterdam or to Vegas to grow up over there in a casino, his mindset is altered. Our DNA was altered. Our Yiddish Eidela mindset was altered. Isn't that beautiful? The Malach, yeah, he could have taken us out physically, but he couldn't take out our nefesh, ruach, and neshama that was meshubed legami l'kibbutz Mitzrayim. He says you find by light. Light, they sent angels. The angels pulled him out of Stoim. Angels could have picked us up, not a problem. God, I wanted to say that maybe, I don't know, it's my own chiddush and my own thinking, that you see that the angels took light out of Stoim, but they didn't take the Stoim out of light. He didn't go back to Avraham Avinu and do tshuva. He still was affected by Stoim. He just was physically taken out. That's what would have happened to us. Our brains were mitzvah fried. That's mine. That's mine. TM, trademark on that. And I write about this, by the way, I'm doing a plug because I make $1 for each book sale, but if you buy GPS, there's a whole section based on this NESIVAS SHALOM, and it's for teens of all ages with pictures and explains it very nicely. We were mitzvah fried. God forbid, like a heroin addict. There's nobody with whom to talk to. You're not dealing with a brain. We were mitzvah fried by them. And that was the problem. So yes, Hashem could have taken us out of Mitzrayim, but he needed to take Mitzrayim out of us. And that only Hashem himself could have done. Because the Malachim could only transport. They could only be the transport physically, but not the shibud that we had that we explained before. That we lost our entire identity. We lost our entire value system of what it means to be a Yid. We lost everything, almost everything. So that, only Hashem was able to snip away that part of the addiction that was wrapping around our inner mindset, that we shouldn't think like an Egyptian anymore. We shouldn't walk like an Egyptian. We shouldn't talk like an Egyptian. We shouldn't think like an Egyptian. Person goes in Gullus for a long time, we lose our Edel Yiddish pure mindset. Right? I always think that by the words V'chanenu me'itcha chachma bina v'das. We can ask Hashem, help us that our entire chachma bina and das should only be me'itcha. But yet we get affected. We get affected by things we see, by things we hear, by the atmosphere. And that's what happened. We were 100% infected, affected and infected, and our minds were mitzvah fried. That was the yitzia that happened over there to Gans Klal Yisrael, and that's what we are going to experience. We're going to do it in the final chapter for part 1 of today. And neshama, we lost our entire being. We didn't think like a Jew. That's what needed to be rescued. Oh, for that you need a CHIZUK Yad. Elilirmois, to be meramis to us, doesn't mean that Hashem has 2 different hands. It's all for us to understand. Yitzia kazu, such a yitzia, such a rescue. L'natek es hanefesh ruach neshama mikavle hashibut shehi tzricha lebchinas CHIZUK Yad. Yeah, it's one thing to go rescue somebody. He got abducted and he says, come pick me up in the corner. You pick up your car and he jumps in. But someone who's addicted and his mindset is addicted, he's messed up in his head, to save that person and bring him to freedom takes a CHIZUK Yad. And the tefillin that we put on. Shehim shibud amoyech v'halev l'Hashem yisbarach. We're expressing our shibud to God. Heim hatshuva, that is the response, l'shibud Mitzrayim. Took us out of Mitzrayim, where we were enslaved in Gans and completely to Parai. Our tshuva, our answer to that, is when we go ahead and we choose to enslave ourselves with our entire muhus to Hashem. Now, we're going to end just with understanding. For the men who put on tefillin, women have other things that enslave them, like cleaning for Pesach, But for the men, we have to remember these words, because there's a war over us. The war is not physical. We can move and do what we want. We could learn as much as we want. There's a war inside of us. So when we put on the tefillin, we have to really think. I was once a slave to Parim Mitzrayim. I couldn't even talk. I couldn't even speak. I couldn't think like a Jew. Now, Baruch Hashem, you, Hashem, took us out. You made me free. I was once a free-thinking, naive boy. But we do get affected by everything around us. Please, I want to be mishabed, my heart and my mind to you. To you, meaning to what you want, to your Ratzon Hashem. A lot of times, people do things that tzaddikim say, you shouldn't do it. And they say, where does it say? It's not about mitzvah and avera. It's about feeling that I'm carrying on my life according to the shibud that I put on myself to do the Ratzon Hashem, to figure out what God really wants, and to say, is this really what Hashem wants? Could be it's not an avera. Could be it's fine, but deep shibud means to figure out what the Master really wants from us and to live that way through and through and through as much as we can. For us, it's a struggle. That's what it is, and that's what Pesach is. It's a zman cheruseinu, a time where every year we have a little chance to get freed from all the what's the word? Garbage. There's another word. I don't want to say it. All the stuff that's in here. That just comes from the airwaves, just from existing. It ties us up. It takes away our atzmaut, our freedom, our independence. That's what's happening on Pesach. Big night, big night.